Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I'm here today with Lago, and I'm super excited to introduce this guest. I met her recently at Powerful You. And it was, I was getting in line for book signings, and I was going to get in line for the guy that wrote The Third Door. And I was like, oh, she has a book. And I was like, oh, this looks pretty. I mean, it was like God, God guides your footsteps, I think. And I had just torn my hamstring, and my next guest has written a book called True Grit and Grace. And she basically had, you guys, a horrific motorcycle accident. And she almost had to, I'm going to let her tell the full story, but she almost had to have her leg fully amputated. And, she was just going along, having a great life. She's a personal trainer. She's fit. She was a professional dancer. She even danced with MC Hammer, you guys, no lie, on like one of his videos back in the day, you guys. I used to love MC Hammer and Hammer Time. And, here she was going along, life's going great, fit, happy, working out, like a workout fanatic. And, life has a way of pulling the rug out from underneath you sometimes. And so this whole podcast today is going to be, just like her tagline says, it's going to be about turning your tragedies into triumph. Because I know a lot of you out there have had horrific things happen to you. Stuff happens. And this is just how to embrace the suck and move forward in your life and come out on top, because you guys aren't even you're not going to look at Amberly, this beautiful lady beside me, and think anything bad has ever happened to her. Look how gorgeous she is, you guys.
Oh, so sweet.
Just so sweet and has such a good attitude. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome you,
thank you,
Amberly, to the show.
Thank you. It was really great meeting you at Powerful You. And I do think sometimes I call them sometimes God winks, when something we're kind of guided and you meet someone, or something happens and the light bulb comes on. And when I got to meet you, I felt an instant connection. And so thank you for having me on. And it's we all go through our challenges, and my life was great. Everything was going good. I had a career, 2 healthy girls, the dream man, husband that I'd always kind of dreamed of, and life changes pretty quick.
And I just have to laugh when you said the whole God wink, because I love that. And it was totally like a wink. It was a nudge. It was like, no, I was literally listening. I was waiting. I can't remember if it was Lewis House that spoke after you, or it was The Third Door. I was waiting for one of the two. And I was like, who's this?
I think it was The Third Door, because he spoke right after me. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I had a short time on stage. I found out about the event about a week before the event, and they were like, how can we get you out here? We don't have really that much time for speaking, but we're going to give you 5 minutes on stage. And I was like, really? Okay. 5 minutes. I got to make the best of 5 minutes. So, I had like 5 minutes to speak. And so then I was grateful. I met like a lot of people that heard me in 5 minutes and said, oh, wow, I resonated with your story, because like I said, we all go through challenges. For me, I was on my motorcycle, and I was coming home from work, and an SUV made a left-hand turn, and I didn't have time to do anything but try to jump off my motorcycle, and I was T-boned. I was thrown about 30 feet, and I was sliding down the road, and I couldn't tell what I was sliding into. So I was just kind of trying to curl in a ball, and I was afraid I was going to slide into another car or be run over again. And when I finally stopped, I looked down at my leg and it was just in pieces. And my first thought was, well, oh my, blood was gushing out and my femoral artery was severed. And it looked like one of those horror movies. And I didn't want to let go of my leg. I felt like it was going to like fall off, honestly. And so I didn't want to reach for my phone. I just held on to my leg, and I thought I just started screaming out my husband's phone number and some cuss words. And then I was thinking, oh, my Methodist mother wouldn't be proud about that. And it's funny, the things that go through your head when trauma strikes. And my first thought was, oh, wow, I'm going to have to train clients on crutches for a while. I had no idea just how much my life was going to be, like my whole life changed. The last thing I remember when I did get to the hospital was I was laying there, my head was taped to the gurney, and the hospital, the ER room was filled with cops because my husband is a lieutenant commander, and through the brotherhood of the police force, news travels fast. And so a lot of the guys showed up, and so they thought I was a cop. And I hear somebody crying. I couldn't tell what it was, something like I'd never heard. And it was my husband, and I had never seen him cry. He's a lieutenant commander. And he was pacing back and forth in the ER. And I screamed across the hospital room. I said, honey, get over here now. I need you to be strong for me. And so he held my hand. And the last thing I remember was the nurse leaned over me and she said, we're going to give you something to make you feel better now. And I woke up out of a coma. I didn't know how long I'd been in a coma. And first thing I found out was they were going to amputate my leg, which is, growing up a dancer, being a fitness, the day before my accident, I had just done a fitness video so I was doing fitness videos. I had 3 trainers that worked for me. My whole life was my whole livelihood, my whole life, my whole passion was fitness. And so to be told that they're going to take that away from me, I instantly thought, no. And when I was in a coma, they were going to go ahead and amputate it. And my husband said no. He signed papers to not allow them to do that. And he said, when she wakes up, I want her to wake up with 2 legs, and I want it to be her decision on whether or not she's going to save her, they're going to amputate it. I want her to know. And so it took an act of God. Yeah. Oh, believe me, he still reminds me every day. You are who you are because of me. He's like, you have both of your legs because of me. So honestly, it's true. This is not my story. This is our story. He has been with me every step of the way. In fact, when I woke up out of a coma, you've got tubes going down your throat, and I was like, you would have thought maybe I would say, oh my goodness, honey, I love you. He was leaning over me and his eyes were watery and with tears. And there's like, she's trying to say something, because I was trying to rip the tubes out of my mouth, and they're like, no, don't do that. And so they brought me over a piece of paper, and I wrote on there, the first thing I wrote was, get off my tubes. He was laying against my tubes, leaning over me, and I couldn't breathe. And so the next thing I said was, don't tell my daughter. My oldest daughter, she was on a school trip, and I didn't want her to know. Little did I know, I'd been in a coma for over a week, and she already knew.
Oh, yeah.
And then when I saw my mom there, I knew it must be serious, because my mom would have to take off work and fly from Texas. And so that really began the journey of healing. And I had 34 surgeries. They were able to send me to a trauma hospital, and I had a 1% chance of saving my leg, a 1% chance. And I had one doctor that was willing to try to do it.
Oh my gosh, that makes me want to cry just thinking about it.
I had this doctor, he didn't give up on me. It took 3.5 months in the hospital the first time, 34 surgeries, but the real journey began when I was diagnosed with a nerve disease called complex regional pain syndrome, which is dubbed the suicide disease because it leaves you in constant chronic pain. So that is really when my journey began, because, you know, when, like, you know, you've had an injury.
Is that like neuralgia?
No, it is, fibromyalgia is mainly
Not fibromyalgia. Neuralgia is like the nerve like starts to contract and the pain is just so intense that you can't manage it. They call that the suicide disease too.
Well, this is ranked highest on the pain scale because it hurts like hell. And there's in fact, I look normal. I had to change my pants and put on loose pants because I have it in my leg. I have my leg propped up right now. But if you even have anything as light as a sheet touching your leg, it feels like you have like rubber bands tight around the area and like battery acid going through your veins. And so for me, when I found out you have this, I had a doctor say, "Are you the kind of person that likes to push through pain?" And I said, "Well, yes, sir, I am." And he said, "Well, you need to stop. You need to stop right now. You need to get back in your wheelchair. You're going to be permanently disabled. Your life will never be the same. And you'll probably never run again. And you're going to..."
Gosh, terrible words to
Well, and I pretty much stopped listening after the word "get back in your wheelchair and your life will never be the same." And I was crushed. And the reason I speak about this is because I don't want anybody to have to feel that hopeless feeling in that dark, dark place that I went to,
Right.
because I've always been a real positive person. But I realized once I had this, I didn't really know that my drug of choice was fitness or running. And it's what I did when I was happy or sad or depressed or, anxious or anything. I ran. And when I didn't, that was the only tool I had in my toolbox for dealing with anything. And so when this happened, I was stuck sitting in a hospital bed and then in a wheelchair with all these emotions. And I thought, what am I going to do? And it's called the suicide disease because when people find out there's not a cure and you're in pain, pain does crazy stuff to you. And for me, it made me isolate. And so I went from being this very outgoing person with clientele and a lot of friends to suddenly my world got smaller and smaller and smaller. And I was broken spiritually, mentally, and physically in every way. But I did find the one thing that had the most impact on my recovery is resilience. And we all have resilience within us. And it's just like a muscle, like going to the gym and getting your muscles stronger. What I have found that we can strengthen our resilience. There are things we can do. So I had to come up with a whole different set of tools and rely on those to like climb out of that dark place that I was in, because, I probably would have given up. I mean, I was that hopeless. I was having thoughts like, my husband deserves better. My kids could find a better mom. And I was about to give up, but I noticed who was watching, and my kids were watching, and I wanted to set an example for them. And so I wanted them to not see a mom that lived in a place of victimhood. And you know what? I didn't want to just survive anymore. I wanted to thrive. So I had to figure out a way. How was I going to live? How am I going to live the rest of my life despite this chronic pain and still find joy and happiness? And it's possible. We have to choose it. We have to be willing to show up every single day and claim our resilience, because we can do it.
Even when it's hard, because that's when you have to show up the most.
So true. Yeah, it's true.
Well, I can so relate to your story because when I found myself, I was getting ready for a fitness competition, and it was the night before, and my husband wanted to watch, and I wanted to, you know, I knew I shouldn't be like overperforming because I had already taken all my water off for the show
Yeah.
so you can see the muscles. And I knew I should only mark my routine, but he, you know, I was people pleasing. He wanted to see the routine and I liked to impress him. So I was doing it, and it had his baseball number on, and I was going through the routine, and he wanted a video. So after 3 times through, the fourth time, you know, the video was on. So I started performing full out, and I went down, and, you know, a pop all the way from the hamstring, from the knee, the whole entire thing. I felt it like a string, like just go. And I was down on the ground, just rolling around in pain. And I couldn't walk. I couldn't, you know, I got up from that, and I was just so mad, actually, so mad. And I found myself kind of, you know, let's go to the hospital. So we get there, and I still can't walk by the time we've had ER, the x-rays, the whole bit, and still didn't know if I tore it at the time. Long story short, it's now been reattached. But I found some way to make it through that, go and, you know, place very well in my show doing fitness.
That's amazing.
No hamstring, absolutely no hamstring. And it was all mindset. So, you know, I just think like, yes, you know, I didn't realize I'd torn it. I got misadvice from the x-ray. They said, you know, you're fine. You've got a strain, but it was completely torn from the pelvis all the way. Almost just a thread was hanging. And so I was so close, and I wanted to be done, like, because I'm 56, and I wanted this to be my last fitness like show. And so I'm just like, I'm dieted down. I've done this work. I'm going to do this. And so I did well, but then the aftermath of the injury, and I found I didn't have the tools in my toolbox like you're talking about, because once I had that surgery, I realized how many times I would run away through running for something I didn't want to deal with. And so let's talk a little bit more about the tools that you had to use and how you pulled yourself out of feeling sorry for yourself and being angry about the situation.
Well, you know, I think everybody deals with things in different ways. I remember talking about the anger part. When I was in the hospital, I had a friend of mine tell me that I was weird, and people would think that was something wrong with me, because in my book, I don't talk a lot about anger, because people say, well, weren't you so angry at the guy that hit you?
Right.
And I wasn't in the hospital. I wasn't angry, because I was so just focused on getting through one day at a time, because I would have a surgery, and then I would have a day of recovery, and then I would have a surgery, and then I'd have a day of recovery, and I'd go to ICU because they couldn't control my pain. Then I'd be back out, and they were thinking, if we can't control her pain, we're going to have to put her in a coma again. And so it was just, I didn't have time for anger until I got out of the hospital and I started recovering a little bit more. And I was angry at my leg, and I hated my leg. And so I looked at it. It's all scarred up and deformed. It didn't work properly. My ankle's fused. My calf is now in the front of my leg. It's been reattached to the front of my leg. I'm basically scarred from my hip all the way down to my toes. And I would get angry at my leg. And I remember one day I was sitting at the kitchen table, and I looked at my husband and I said, I hate my leg. I wish they'd just go ahead and amputate it. And he was like, what? I can't believe you would say that. He goes, you're lucky you have both your legs. And it was like a slap in the face of, oh my gosh, you're so right. It was a slap in the face of perspective. Look at what I do have. And so I think for me, what I was doing wrong was I wasn't in acceptance. I didn't want to accept that I had a life living with a nerve disease called CRPS. I was in denial. And so I denied the pain. I tried to suck it up, stuff it down. In Texas, we call it cowgirl up. And I was like, I'm going to cowgirl up and I don't have this. I'm not taking medicine for it. I am not going to do anything the doctor tells me. I'm going to do what I want to do. And that took me down and I ended up back in ICU. And that was what really, when reality struck, that this isn't working for me. And so my first thing that I had to do was be in acceptance. And because once you're in acceptance of where you are, I had somebody say, well, I don't want to accept that I have my back pain. I'm just not going to accept it because that's kind of a cop out. And I said, no, be in acceptance. And acceptance doesn't mean that you're admitting that you're defeated or that you're wrong, or it's admitting, be in acceptance of where you are on your journey so you can take the steps to do something to make your life better. And so once I accepted where I was, then I could start to do things to make my life better. One thing that really helped me, one of the tools that I practice every single day is gratitude. And I have people ask me all the time, well, how could you be grateful when you were stuck in a hospital bed? Or how can you be grateful? Like I was walking through the gym the other day and somebody asked how I was doing. And I said, well, I'm good. How are you? And he said, well, I'm good, but I'm not the one who had their life turned upside down, who almost lost their leg. And I thought, you know what? It's all how you look at it. I practice gratitude every single day when I wake up. I get up before the whole household gets up. So I have that moment in the morning of quiet and still time. And I read through some spiritual books. I sit and journal, even if it's for 5 minutes, and I write down what I'm grateful for, because that starts my day in a place of abundance. And I feel like the more gratitude you have and the grateful you are, it puts your mind, your focus on the things that are good in your life. And you have that mentality of someone who's thriving versus focusing on what's going on that you're not necessarily happy with in your life. And so gratitude has been key for me. And it started actually, that started out when I was in the hospital bed. I was sitting there and I was looking down, and it was when I noticed for the first time that I was starting to feel sorry for myself, because I was watching TV and it hit me because I was watching some infomercial about how to get a Brazilian butt. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'll never get a Brazilian butt. And I looked down at myself and I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? Will my husband love me? Will I ever even be able to wear a bikini? And I started having a pity party.
The whole identity crisis is happening.
Yes. And I thought, I've got to do something to snap out of this. And so I grabbed this pad, a pen and pad of paper that was right next to me. And I started writing down things that I was grateful for. I wrote down every nurse's name that came in, that took care of me, my doctors. I wrote down things that people brought me in the hospital. And that started too as a way of remembering what people brought to me so I could write them a thank you note. And that's when that really started to play into my life of, oh my gosh, that works. That shifts my mindset real quick. As soon as I have that negative thought, I think of one thing that I'm grateful for, that I do have, or, that's going on good in my life. And a key thing that has really helped me, a tool in my toolbox, is having a tribe of people, people that, that believe in you, that believe in your dreams, that connect with you on a level like you and I connected, where you can go, oh my gosh, me too. I can totally relate to that, because those are your people. I just spoke at a conference in North Carolina, and I was not expecting this, but it was, I maybe should have, but because it was for a conference for CRPS, which is the nerve disease I have. And I asked the audience, I said, who here has been diagnosed with CRPS? And 90% of the audience raised their hand. I was blown away. I started crying right there in front of everybody, because I've never been in a room with that many people who understand that kind of pain, what you go through every day. It's like when you and I connect on a fitness level, when you're sitting there saying, I had taken the water out, I was ready to perform. I'm like, I get you. Yep, I hear you. Like we get each other. Like my daughter is horse crazy. She can meet somebody else who knows about horses and it's instant connection. And so I think it's so important to have those people, because I was so isolated. I didn't have anybody. My world was so small, and it takes a lot.
Probably the people you were hanging with maybe weren't the ones you're hanging with now, would be my guess.
Yeah, I think you really, when you go through anything good or bad, you find out who your true people are. And I think, it's really important to take inventory of your friends and see who is the puppy uppers and who are the doggy downers, and get rid of the doggy downers, because those people will suck the life out of you. I remember this guy coming up to me one day at the gym and he goes, well, are you done with people feeling sorry for you? And I said, I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me. I never wanted anybody to feel sorry for me. I don't feel sorry for myself. I don't want to have a pity party. I want to be around people that are positive, that, you know what I mean? That
lifts you up.
Yeah, it's important. Yeah, it's really important.
And I had to, like when we're talking about the 5 minutes that you got to speak, I was listening, and at first I was like, wait, isn't the guy from the third door going to talk? I was like so excited.
Yes.
And then you got my interest, and I started listening to what you had to say. And I was really impressed with how you took that 5 minutes and said so much. And
thank you.
Well,
I have to tell you a funny story, side note, about that, about the guy that was supposed to speak before me. So I was in the green room and I thought I had like an hour and a half before I was going to have to speak. And my phone rings and I see the area code Salt Lake City. I'm like, who's calling me from here? I answer it and they're like, our other speaker's not here yet. Can you come on next? And I was like, yes, I am so there. And then I run down to the back of the stage and I'm like, wait a minute, I haven't brushed my hair. I didn't put lipstick on. Am I okay? I was so nervous. I was backstage doing push-ups to get rid of my anxiety.
Oh, that's perfect. It's perfect. And you did, even I was sitting next to somebody and we said, wow, she really made the most of her 5 minutes.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much.
And then I'm standing there still, again, the whole waiting for the third door guy. And I am in your line and I'm first. And I'm like looking at the book and I'm like, I still am not getting the whole why this all, now it's all connecting with me. And so I pick up the book, I look at it, and then I'm just like, man, our stories are so freaking like similar in so many ways, because you had gotten through, a sexual abuse, a divorce, you have tenacity, you are a warrior, you are resilient, and all the things I admire in someone. And so it was just one of those God winks, like you said. And I see it so clear now. It was waiting for the wrong person. I was so excited about the third door guy.
It's so funny because it was like you're in the audience and you're like, oh man, who's this girl? Who's this chick up here? Then you're like waiting in line going, oh, there she is again. And God's probably like pushing you like, here, she's right there. She's over there. See her?
And when I did see the third door guy, I was just babbling on. And I think he thought I was some crazy lunatic chick, like some fangirl, but no, I was just excited because what had happened is he had followed me on Instagram, and I didn't even know who it was. And I looked it up and it said, the third door. And I'm like, what's the third door? And I started reading his book. And then I was kind of like, it was crazy because I won tickets to the event. And so then in the next minute, here I am. And I'm at this event where this guy that I don't even know who the heck he is speaking. So I thought surely it's got to be, because I knew there was a reason why I was at the event.
Yeah, there's always a reason, right? I think that you meet people, people come into your lives for a reason. And sometimes we don't always know or we don't always get it, but people, that come into our lives, they're either we're learning from them or we're teaching them something, or it's a stepping stone to meet someone else where I feel like we meet everyone in our lives for a reason.
And it's just so funny because I won the tickets and I knew it was so random because I half like even entered. It was just so random that I won tickets, and in 2 days I'm here facing, like I'm here.
It was
And
a great event, wasn't it?
it was so amazing. And so you took your 5 minutes, getting back to the 5 minutes, because this is the point I want to make. Anybody else might have been like, they're only giving me 5 minutes, and been negative about it, and like, what am I going to do with 5 minutes? You were the half full instead of the half empty. You're like, I've got 5 minutes. I'm going to make the most out of my 5 minutes.
Oh, I was so grateful for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, really,
It's
I was
the whole
so
perception.
grateful.
It's the whole mindset that I want to get to. The whole mindset was your gratitude got you through your injury. You're grateful for the 5 minutes. Your perception, like this whole Powerful You conference was all about our perception of what happens to us. Now, how did you, here you are, you're going through this. It's more horrific than most of us can imagine, to have 34 surgeries and to be in the hospital for at least 3 months and be told you're not going to be able to run again. You may have to have your leg amputated. How did you use perception to get through this whole ordeal?
I got caught up in comparing myself, and not even comparing myself to other people, even just comparing myself to my past accomplishments. And I started, when we start comparing ourselves, I think it's really the thief of joy, because I got caught up in what I couldn't do. And so what I started doing was focusing on what I could do. And that helped me so much. And, it was interesting. I had a client when my whole perception was I wanted to get back to training. And I had another doctor. It's funny, we remember things that, I had some amazing doctors, but I had a couple of doctors that said some things that really stuck with me. And they were my biggest motivating moments. One of them was when a doctor told me I couldn't run again. Another one is when a doctor told me I'd probably never train clients again. And so I was really motivated to train clients again. But my perception was, I'm broken. Who's going to want to train with me? I'm on crutches. Who's going to want to train with a trainer on crutches? I trained boxers. I trained people that were, having to take the California Highway Patrol test. I was in Krav Maga. I was a certified kickboxer. And now I'm on crutches. Well, my perception shifted when I went to the gym, and all of a sudden my clientele boomed because their perception made an impact on me. They saw me as, oh my God, if she can do that, if she can come to the gym in her wheelchair on crutches with a walker, back in her wheelchair. Oh, now she's walking with a limp, but she's doing it. I want that. I want to be able to do that. And I suddenly became that trainer who told people that people were told, no, you can't. I said, well, yes, you can. If I can do it, you can do it. And so my whole perception shifted of, anything is possible if you just believe. If you believe in yourself and you start to believe that anything's possible, sometimes you need another, little help from other people to kind of shift your perception a little bit and help you evolve and transform. Because I sure didn't do any of this on my own. I needed a lot of help. But I had a client tell me, you're a much better trainer now. And I said, well, what do you mean? She goes, well, because you understand
More
my pain.
compassionate, right?
She goes, you understand more.
Uh-huh. I can
Yeah.
relate because it just, I was on crutches with my leg harness back to 90 and it, you're not allowed to bring it down and a scooter and,
Yeah.
and the week before you're like, I was like doing crazy stuff and you realize, I mean, it humbles you in so many ways, I have to say. And you
Mm-hmm.
become so much, I mean, I just felt like, well, how did this happen to me? What are the things that I'm gaining from this? And what are the things I need to pay attention to that I wasn't paying attention to before? And
Mm-hmm.
what perceptions after going to the powerful you do I have that maybe need a little work? And, I went from, completely being a normal person, dressing myself, to my husband dressing me and putting
Mm-hmm.
my clothes on and even
Yeah.
shaving my legs because
Oh,
I
yeah. Well, I
and
mean, I remember just, I used to go in my closet and say, oh, I don't have anything to wear. And that shifted real quick because I couldn't even pick out my own clothes. We have a 2-story house. I couldn't even get upstairs. I was stuck in the hospital bed that we had in our living room. So now I will never complain about having nothing to wear again. I have plenty to wear and I can pick it out on my own. And I'm just grateful for that. Um, but yeah, it really is the way your mindset and the way you look at things and your outlook on life. And mine shifted. I've always been a grateful person, but when you go from having to depend on somebody carrying your bedpan for you, you're grateful just to be able to go to the bathroom on your own and shower. And, it really, I will.
that, and didn't you find yourself more grateful for your husband?
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah,
the
for sure.
gratitude that you felt? Because I can remember sometimes I thought, are we really on the same team here? Like, like
Yeah.
in the past, like,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
fuss or an argument or you're
Heck
trying to
yeah. It's hard.
goal oriented, right? And I can remember thinking, oh, he isn't my enemy. We are on the same team. Like, there was
Yeah.
times I felt, like, are we really on the same team here? And I think my whole perception through the injury shifted like a 360.
Mhm.
And so with that said, moving on from the injury, you had to, how did you pick yourself up? And I mean, how long did it take you to recover?
Well, it took me, I had a doctor, that said I'd never run again. And it took me 2 years, but I ran for the first time on the beach with my daughter. And it was one of the most joyful days I've ever had because, like I said, running was my life. And to be able to run again, it brought me to tears. We would run and I would cry and then I would fall into the sand and we would laugh and then I'd get up and run again. And I can't run all the time. I can't run the way I used to because it flares up my nerve disease. With that, I've had treatments from a spinal stimulator where they implant metal leads into your back and implant a machine into your glute and you turn it on to try to control the pain. That didn't work, unfortunately. I've had ketamine infusions. I've never done a drug in my life, and I did ketamine infusions. I did spinal radial frequency where they burn the nerve. I had spinal blocks. I did Eastern, Western medicine, anything and everything you could think of. I tried it. If somebody said they had something, I would buy it. We had a lien on the house. We were in debt. We borrowed money from friends to try to find anything and everything we could to find a cure. Or to find some relief, man. When you're in pain, you're desperate.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, sure.
I think really it was a shift in my mindset, me accepting where I was. I'm grateful that I knew that if I could work out, that I would feel better mentally. And so I was working out in the hospital bed with dumbbells. I was making sure I did stuff for my upper body to keep my upper body strong. I had a pull-up bar in the hospital bed, and I was
my
doing,
own heart.
yes, I was doing whatever I could. I was eating as healthy as I can. And, you know, I've talk about a lot in my book about the different things I did, but you know, I have so many people that reach out to me and they're like, well, what do you do for your pain? How do you manage your pain? And so my husband's going to kill me. I hadn't even talked to him about this yet, but I've already put in a book proposal for another book about how do you overcome any kind of pain or anything that you're doing that's a difficult challenge in your life. What do you do? Because I had a friend that was like, there's something instilled in you that allows you to get up every day. And it is, there's a list of things that you check off every day. It's like, you know, there's a fine line, there's a balance, because you don't want to push too hard. And like you in fitness, you push too hard on leg day, you're so sore, you can't walk for a week. It's the same thing with anything in life. If you push too hard, you might overdo it. With my nerve disease, if I push too hard, I'm going to have a flare up and I'm going to be miserable. So it's a fine balance. And then if you don't do anything, you start to go into that isolation again. And so it's really, for me, I think that how we thrive is, it's not just a mental, it's not just mindset. It's a physical transformation. It is a spiritual transformation. For me, I have a higher power, whether, you know, I call that God, some people call it light or universe. But for me, I couldn't do any of this if I didn't have a higher power, because I had to believe there is something bigger than me, because I couldn't do it on my own. I had to surrender to it and say, okay, I need help with this. So I think it's a combination of body, mind, and spirit transformation that allows me to get up and continue to thrive. And I'm not saying it's easy. It's hard. It's really hard. It's much harder to decide that you're going to get up and you're going to claim your resilience. But I would rather have that and be able to have a life that's full and enjoy my kids and have clients. You know, I still train a handful of clients, and I do online coaching, and that fills my heart with joy, just being able to reach out to people. That is what, when we were at the conference, Jay Shetty was there speaking.
Yes,
and I'm not sure.
Yes.
And he said something about when you use your passion, and you use it to serve other people, that becomes your purpose. And I loved that, because I love being of service to others. You know, I want to inspire others, you know, especially going through any hard time, that look, that there is not just light at the end of the tunnel. There's light within you. You don't have to wait for the light at the end of the tunnel. That light's in you, and you have to feed that flame, and you have to find people to surround you that are going to fan that flame. Because, you know, I was in such a dark place, and I want to give others the hope that was given to me, because that I never want to go back there. Never want to go back to that place. And so it's amazing. I think the best thing that has happened throughout my whole journey, people say, would you take it all back? And I don't like to say, take it back or coulda, shoulda, woulda. I just focus on, well, this is it. And what are you going to do with the cards that you've been dealt? And for me, the best thing that's happened is connecting with others, like meeting others through, you know, social media is unbelievable now. Like
the connection.
Yes, the tribe of people just through Instagram alone is just, it gets me through some hard times, you know. Just knowing that I have the people to lean on and they can lean on me. And so I always tell people, like we were talking about before we started, how I just found out I was in in a magazine article, which I can't remember what it was.
You said something about
pain-free living. That's what it is. I didn't even know it was published, but yes, it's out today. It's officially out. I was starting to get messages from people who read the article, and to me, I message everybody back, you know, that messages me, and I say, reach out to me anytime, because it takes courage to reach out. And I think that we need those people we can reach out to, because when we have our community, that's how we build our resilience. That's where it's at. That's where our strength is in our community of people.
Right. And to attract the right tribe, you got to give off the right vibe. So,
I love that.
you got to be
Yeah.
authentic and be you, so that you're attracting the right people to you. So when you do have a tragedy strike, you have somebody to support and surround you with the strength that you may not have yourself. They're draw off their energy. And I just want to address how you talked about prayer, or, like just basically higher power. And I call that God as well. And basically, when I was going through this, I just believe everything happens for a reason. And, I'm not believing in coincidences. I'm believing in divine. And I would say prayers and things would happen. And one of the things that happened was I was upset about my scar, because it's huge. It's, I'm competing in bikini competitions, and you were worried about the Brazilian butt, and I'm worried about this huge ass scar I'm going to have going all the way from the center of my leg all the way up underneath my glutes. And I noticed it for the first time, and I looked at it and I was upset, because I was just like, man, and so I let that kind of, brew a bit. And then next day I opened up, this happens to me a lot. The very first thing I opened up was Joel Osteen. Be at peace with your scars was the message.
Wow.
And it really touched me in so many ways. And one of the biggest things, because I kept worrying about, who am I going to be now if I can't do this? What am I going, how, you perceive yourself and your identity, and, all of it wrapped into one, because I know we don't have a whole lot of time left. But the biggest thing I got from it was, Jesus had all these scars that were still there when he rose again. And he fulfilled his purpose. No problem.
That's beautiful.
And so I'm just like, well, that really gave me the confidence and the peace to feel okay with my scars, and realize that I still have the tools to fulfill the purpose, the reason why I'm here.
And you may be able to help someone, who might not be in acceptance about their scars, heal from that. I remember the first time I showed my scars on social media, and my husband was like, oh my gosh, why would you do that? Why did you post that? And I said, well, it's me. I said, and I want to show people my scars so that they know they will heal too, because I had somebody that approached me, and they said, hey, we're doing a reality TV show, and we do the show where we do tattoos, and we'll cover up your scar. I said, well, thank you so much for, offering to do that for me. I said, but I just now accepted my scars, and I think I need to love them a little bit longer before I think about even covering them up or anything like that. But yeah, I think I look at them so different now. I went from really hating my leg to I loved my leg. And that happened when I had my doctor who looked at my leg when I went in for a checkup, and he looked at it. He looked at it like it was a piece of art. And that shifted my perception and my perspective of, wow, if he can look at it like a piece of art, so can I, and so it slowly started to shift.
Right. So I really have loved this conversation. I hate that it's time to end, because
I know
Amberly she has clients waiting for her, and
I do at noon.
And she's on the other side of the planet. She's in California, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
even though I sound like I'm from Texas, but yeah, I live in California.
I
always
knew
confuses people
that you had a Texas accent. But what are a couple things you could leave, a couple tips you can leave with the audience today? Three funny
Oh,
tips or just simple something to help them through their life.
oh, the simplest is with grit and grace, you're resilient. Don't give up hope. Hold tight to it, especially when you're at that moment where you want to give up, and reach out. Reach out to someone. Even if it's one person, just reach out. If you can take an action step every day, just take one action. Do that. Just take one action, and that will get you. That was all it did for me. Just one action, one day at a time, and you make progress every single day.
I love that. That's beautiful. Where can everybody get your book and reach you on social media?
You can find me at amberlylago.com, where you can also sign up. Oh, thank you for my newsletter. I send out an inspirational newsletter every Monday, and you can find me on Instagram at Amberly Lago Motivation, Facebook at Inspirational. I think, what is it? Inspirational Living with Amberly Lago. I should be quicker with this. And Twitter, Amberly Lago.
And I just want to acknowledge you today for your tenacity, again, your resilience, your gratitude, and the beauty that I see coming from the inside out.
Oh, thank you. I loved every minute talking with you.
It's wonderful. We'll have to reconnect because I can see this being a powerful connection.
Yes, for sure. You'll have to come visit me in California.
Oh yeah, I love California. My son will be out there. He's a videographer, so I'll be out there quite frequently.
Okay, that's so cool. Let me know.
Yeah, we'll have to have some coffee or something.
Yeah,
Well,
thank you
so
again.
much. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening today to the episode of the Sisterhood of Sweat with Amberly Lago. Her book again is True Grit and Grace, and Turning Tragedy into Triumph. Make sure to review and give her some love in iTunes. And as always, keep on keeping on, guys.